So we made some progress on the cabinet. Since last we saw, you can see that there's some components that were added. This is the control panel here detached. We'll use that just a second to kind of talk about how it's all going to go together. But you can see that the audio panel, the speakers have been installed. I have this plastic protector to make sure that the subwoofer doesn't take any damage from an errant screwdriver. So that's kind of on there for right now. But you can see I've got two buttons installed with their switches. The audio panel, as we talked about earlier, with the water slide, which worked out pretty well. I can kind of see some of the different coloration here, where I think the water slide's probably going to patina differently than the rest of it. So we'll see how that goes in the long term. But I did add this nifty little power switch when it's time to turn it on, and added two more buttons to the original design and installed the USB 3.0 in there. So there's a couple of things that we have finished. We added the power port here, which is kind of a standard PC, and that switch comes around here, and this is a slimline box that you would find in the wall of a home behind like a switch or a electrical port. And then that basically comes out of to a large wire here, and then that wire in turn is going to the permanently mounted surge protector inside here. And of course, this does have a switch as well, which means it's kind of double switched, but the idea is that that switch will never be used, and everything will be plugged into that along the way. These dangling wires here are for the USB port, and let's see, we'll get to this in just a second. But this guy over here, one of the last videos we talked about the power switch. We were going to need to turn on the monitor, the computer, which is going to be mounted here once I get a little farther in the progress. But this is the jumper that I'm going to be plugging into the computer, and then that goes down here to a simple momentary switch. And in true 1980s fashion, it's simply a hole that is has a metal plate in the back, and then a momentary switch. So this is going to be the switch to send the signal to the computer that you want to either turn it on or turn it off. And this, I chose to do it this way. It seems really odd. You'd say, wow, you're putting all this effort into this, and then you just drilled this really raw looking hole in the side. Well, there's a reason for it. Back in the 80s, that this is how they would put the reset switch on pinballs and that kind of thing. So it's very common to see this kind of construction, and it's quite period correct. Now, I may put a small black plate or something that swivels just so that you don't see it, but I like this. This is I think it adds to the authenticity of it. So let's go around the back here, and we'll show you some of the work that we did. And I'm going to zoom out here so that we can kind of get a bigger picture here. So the three speakers, we got those installed and sealed. I improved on how the signal comes from the board, and this is the audio board that's mounted through the other side. It is permanently, semi-permanently powered. Here you can see that it's going into kind of one of these screw terminals. And then it goes through the switch. This is the custom switch that was installed. It's way overkill. This is like a 3 PDT switch. It just needs to be off and on, so it does the job. And then we've got our right speaker, left speaker, the subwoofer, and then we will get the input signal to the computer from this little jumpered area right here. But it also has Bluetooth, which is the Bluetooth antenna is over there. But we won't use Bluetooth. We're going to use the wired connection so that there's no competing between like an iPhone or something and you're trying to figure out why you can't play your game. It is fed 12 volts here, and that's how the system is fed. So these are kind of rigid, solid core wiring, so it gives me the freedom to be able to bend them and make it so that they're fixed and neat and out of the way. And then they have these kind of banana terminals And then this screw, if anybody's wondering what that is, that was the old port where I just fed wire through it and put some silicone, and it turns out it doesn't hold it that well. Silicone does not grab onto PVC hard enough to be able to have a bumping, moving speaker. It's gonna just kind of push right through it. So this screw is blocking that port, and then this is the way that the signal goes through these banana ports. Some of the other wiring that you're seeing, so each one of these switches, these are the switches on the front of the machine that you click them. You've got your RGB wires here. This is to make the switch light up, and they'll all light up in turn, and it will have a nice little light show for everyone. So each of them has RGB and then basically a negative or positive, depending on how you look at it, to light it. So each one of those has it, and those all follow down. And then they go to this little guy, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But for now, each switch has a signal as well. So each switch is going to share a ground. So you'll see that the ground kind of comes over here, it goes to this switch, and all of the switches go to the same ground. That's how these old systems would work. And then it's the individual positive terminal that would come through, and then once those two shorted out, that's how the machine knows, okay, that switch has been pressed. So there's a lot of wires here. When you take 4 times 4, or 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2, and you're doing the math here, and you can kind of see I had to get all of these wires to go to the brain on the control panel on the other side. And I mentioned earlier in one of the videos that I didn't want to have a big rat's nest of wires. So I decided to go with a DB25 connector, which is, it is period correct for a 1980s cabinet. DB25 is an old parallel port that they used to use on computers. You might recognize it if I come over here and grab it. Maybe if you're old enough, you've probably seen one of these and you go, oh yeah, that's how we used to hook up our printer or our dot matrix printer, or maybe a scanner or something along those lines. But the cool thing is it's got 26 effective pins on it. So, and I'm not using all of them, but you can see that that's how that's going to work. This will be plugged in here. I'm not going to do it now, but that would be plugged in here. And then this is the resultant wire, the only wire that's going to be going to the control panel. So it should make it a little lighter rather than having to lift all of those wires and just kind of work your way through it. This is the intention of, if I ever have to remove the control panel, I don't have to disturb any of the back wiring here on the back of the machine. So the design intent here is that when you're playing a game, this can be a quick save state, load state, and then these will be like start and stop game. Because this is a multi-emulator machine, you need to be able to tell the machine, I want to start my game, I want to stop my game, I want to save it because I need to go eat dinner and go live my life because I'm not 13 anymore in an arcade, and I want to be able to load it later. So that's the long and short of it. I don't know if you've seen the speakers, but the real quick story on these are Infinity reference speakers, way overkill for what we're doing here. But yeah, these were pulled out of the truck. I may have mentioned this in the first video. Forgive me for repeating myself. But this is where we are. The next steps, I did settle on and order the vinyl artwork, which is fantastic. That was a huge hurdle. Great big thanks to Allison, my wife, for helping me through that with Adobe Illustrator and all of the stuff that frankly I'm just not really that good at. So when that stuff comes in, there's going to be a vinyl graphic that goes across here. It has kind of like a space theme with a teal and magenta, maybe a little bit of orange and black and white. This whole panel right here will be covered, and the design, like this panel is modeled after Tempest, which is an old arcade game that used vector graphics, but they had some fantastic artwork on the front, and I took that, and that was really the kind of the pivot for the color scheme and what it was going to look at. So it looked like, so there will be the Tempest kind of like starburst right here, and then up here I took a some art from Defender, and there's like some, you know, space kind of nebulas that you can see, and there's some stars, and there's a big planet over here, so that'll be over here. And then on the sides, I took the inspiration from Gyrus. Some folks may not be familiar with that game, but the artwork on the side was kind of abstract, very space looking, and there's a little kind of an X or a cross down here. We'll see that in our next video as we stick it on there. But we're using like a Roland vinyl sticker. It's going to go on here, and it should be flush all the way around. And then when we put the T-molding in, it's going to trim it out. Real nice. So what's next? Next is start to attack that guy, which is, frankly, I've been procrastinating because of the penalty for failure. I have to drill this many holes, and including this guy, and I have to do these nice little rounded edges and all these cuttings. And when you make a mistake with Lexan, you have to start the whole thing over. And you know, this isn't about cost, but that sheet of Lexan's $100. So, you know, when you mess up Lexan, there's usually some choice words that will come out of your mouth. So we're hoping and praying that comes together nicely. But that's going to be what I start today, using my Forstner bits to start going through the Lexan. So there'll be a piece of Lexan that goes here. I'm gonna have to do some mounting solution, probably some high-powered magnets or something to hold it in so that I can remove it if I really want to. And there will be a piece here that goes across, so it's gonna sandwich. There will be, I will prime this and paint this, then I'll put the vinyl on, then I'll put the cut Lexan, and then of course all of the devices will go on top of it. So that's where we are, and I think once I get the vinyl in and I start working some of the Lexan, we're going to really start to see this thing come together. So thanks for following along with me, and we'll see you next time.